So I promised you guys a challenge, and here we are. The first ever challenge that I plan on hosting is going to be a painting challenge where I'm going to task you guys to paint a scene based on the prompt, enter the dungeon. Now this prompt is very specifically chosen to be a little bit open-ended so that I can potentially follow up on this story that we start now with a future scene. Now, in case we're going to do this in multiple challenges and it's going to be consecutive paintings, don't feel forced to actually make it one coherent story. It's just, for me, that kind of sounded like a fun idea, and that's definitely the prompt that I'm going to stick with as I'm making my own examples of this. So the way the challenge is going to work, you guys are going to have to paint something by the end of the month, which is going to be, in this case, the 6th of September, which means you're going to have 1 month time to create a painting around the subject enter the dungeon. The subject only really specifies that you need to draw a scene with a character about to enter a dungeon, so about to start some kind of adventure. Now, the setting doesn't matter, the character doesn't matter, what kind of dungeon it is doesn't matter. That's up to your creativity on how you want to fill in the blanks. This seems to me like a fairly nice and open-ended challenge that will provide some creative thinking, or force you to have some creative thinking, as well as still give you a sense of direction to move into. So why would you join this challenge? Well, the reason is simple. Painting is fun. That's the most obvious reason. So if you like painting, feel free to join in. Other reason might be I will be reviewing the entries for this challenge every month, so I'll be providing feedback, constructive feedback on the paintings you have made. For those of you who don't know, I'm a professional lecturer at CGMA at a school here in Belgium, as well as at Artwad and Brushsauce Academy. I've also taught at the University of Utrecht for one class, so I have a lot of experience providing feedback, which is why I feel like I have something to contribute to anyone who would choose to enter this challenge. Aside from that, no real prizes. The feedback is going to be hopefully enough incentive for some of you guys to think, oh yeah, wait, this might actually be interesting to join in, or just for the heck of it, just for fun. You're going to have to submit your work in the Discord, in my own Discord. You're going to find the link in the description. If you submit it before the deadline, it will be entered into the pool of people that are going to be getting feedback. If you don't manage to make the deadline, feel free to just join in anyway. You can still submit it in the Discord, and I might still have a look at it and provide feedback. And just in that case, it won't be in the video, it will be written. So yeah, that's the basic idea of this first ever challenge that I'm gonna host. So I hope you guys are as excited as I am, because these kind of challenges is what got me started in my artistic journey, really. Like, it's helped me so much to improve. Like, back in the day, I think I've mentioned to you guys that my mentor was Tyler Edlin, who I now work with as well. And he used to do these kind of monthly challenges as well, and it's the feedback I got from him during these challenges that basically convinced me that art was a attainable goal, that it was something that I could actually potentially do for a living. And I'm so grateful for the fact that those kind of challenges existed, because it helped me personally get started on my journey to becoming a professional artist. Now, how are you going to approach this challenge? The only thing I really require of you is to submit the final image. The size doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw it all into a Photoshop file anyway. And aside from that, there isn't really any other rules, except obviously the image should be made specifically for this challenge. I don't want you to just grab something from your hard drive and submit it. That would be kind of beating the point of, once again, calling it a challenge. So try to really put some effort in the submission that you're gonna make, because we're supposed to have fun with this. So that's the whole idea. That's kind of my whole mindset when it comes to digital art, or just art in general. So for this image, like, I personally took a fairly standard approach. I wanted to not go too adventurous as to not influence what you guys would do, but I also wanted to paint something that would still fit the theme. So my entry to enter the dungeon is just a knight in front of a dungeon about to enter it. Very simple. And I'm gonna admit I struggled quite a lot with this painting in particular. The thumbnail was very easy to make, but for those of you who know me, like, finishing a painting is not really my strong suit. I'm good at ideating, at iterating, at painting quickly, but like a rendering is not something I usually do that much. I tend to call a painting finished quite quickly. So it was a bit of a challenge to push things a bit further, and I got a bit hung up on where to actually start. I figured the knight would probably be a good idea since that's the focal point, but I quickly got sidetracked with then figuring out, okay, no, actually I want the back wall to already have some level of finish before I draw the knight in there. The reason being, the knight is made of a full metal plate armor. Metal is reflective, and I don't know what it's supposed to reflect if I haven't painted the environment yet, so it made sense to take a step back and like work a little bit on the rest of the scene before committing to the knight further. I also didn't really do enough planning beforehand, and I got stuck with the pose of the knight. So don't do what I did. I would recommend all of you guys to get a good foundation for your drawing first, so that you actually know what you're gonna paint. As you can see, if you've already seen the image at the start of the video, my painting has evolved quite a bit from this initial sketch, because I needed to think about, okay, what other elements would suit in this environment, and how can I actually add these in a way that it is kind of respectful to the original composition, so that I don't undo the work that I've done, but also it should provide a little bit of an extra guideline, I guess, for how the eye is supposed to follow through the scene. So these trees, for example, I've added, that are supposed to add like a little gliding motion to the eye, so it's always brought back to the character. As some of you guys might know, I tend to like to put like these closed loops in my scene, where I try to literally pave the way that the eye needs to follow, and I think that's quite a fun way to go about this. Now, the best way to get a clear focal point is always going to be to just increase the amount of contrast that you're going to add around your focal point. So, since the knight is wearing a reflective suit of armor, it made sense that this is going to be catching quite a bright highlight, and the back wall, I didn't want to light it up entirely, so I took some artistic liberty and just kind of threw a cast light, let's say, over the front walls, that's all sort of vignetting the entire piece, and I thought that worked quite well for the benefit of the scene. At this point, like you can see, I'm wondering what to do with the knight. I'm wondering, okay, how complicated do I want to make a suit of armor? What kind of weapon do I give him? What's the pose? I'm feeling quite stuck, so once again I venture into the environment and I start just kind of taking the next steps and adjusting some values, maybe refining other parts of the scene, and it works out for me to a certain degree to kind of not stick in one place for too long. And I think that's probably something that a lot of people get wrong when they are painting. They want to finish one element before they start the rest of the scene, and you should always kind of wonder about your composition to make sure that you're actually illustrating an entire scene, rather than just like a printer going through the entire scene, rendering everything one by one. So leveling up the entire scene at the same time is a good idea, and at this point I've done that for the right side of the canvas, but I've completely ignored the left side of the canvas, because once again, didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do with it. So once again, guys, plan ahead. Be better than what I did in this case. Plan ahead and you'll struggle much less than I did. So, the composition overall, I'm not too worried about. I think the foundation was good enough so that it would always work. Like on its most core level, this composition is pretty hard to break by adding new things. So I was feeling pretty confident still. It's just now how to optimize the scene. So it's always important to remember that you don't necessarily need to be like content with what you've made immediately, but you need to have that good foundation so that you have room to mess around, basically. Like I said, I still felt like something was missing, so I decided to start adding these thorn bushes, which I thought added like a nice maybe sense of dread almost. It made it just feel a tad bit more aggressive and gave a bit more personality to the dungeon as opposed to just being a hole in the wall. So that really started, for me, that sort of unlocked my, let's say, courage to dare to actually approach the rest of the environment now. So I kind of got into a groove once I did this, and I felt like, okay, now we're back on track, everything's going all right, nothing to worry about, just keep painting, basically. I'd like to say that overall this painting probably took me about 3 to 4 hours to finish. Could have been half the time just because of the amount of indecisiveness basically that was present in the scene. But, you know, sometimes it's fun to just dive into something and see where your intuition will lead you. Sometimes it'll lead you in a good direction, sometimes it'll lead you in a bad direction. I still felt like the scene was missing something, and you'll see fairly quickly what that something would be. Like, I thought to myself, is this an interesting composition, yes or no? Composition, yes. Subject, maybe, not so much. So I wanted to add something new, but I was very scared to add a new light source, because the one thing that this composition was doing well, in my opinion, was the light. So adding a new light source, that is something that might break that down. So I tried to torch, the torch didn't really feel right. It's not gonna work. And eventually I decided to try to play around perhaps with a little bit of magic. Like, this knight is entering this dungeon. What would he have to bring with him? Well, some kind of light source would make sense. It seems like it's quite dark. And to add that light source, at first I thought, okay, maybe it's like some dancing lights that are entering the dungeon. It felt like a bit of a weak compositional choice, so I managed to scrap that pretty early on. But having like maybe like a spectral companion seemed like just a fun idea, and I just started painting this sort of, let's call it a wraith or a shade or a specter or whatever you want to call it, to add like an extra interesting bit to the scene. And I suddenly felt like, oh yeah, this is starting to have a bit more personality now. It's a bit more unique than it was before. It's still just a knight entering a dungeon. Now he just has something that will either protect him or at least guide him, and that's, I think, a strong addition to the scene. So overall, it took me a while to get there, but I managed to get to a point where everything was kind of falling in the right place. Still ignored the left side of the canvas for the most part, which is not ideal, but I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I'm quite content with how it ended up looking. It just took longer than necessary to get there. So if there's anything you guys should learn from what I've done in this particular painting, preparation. I think it's Evan Amundsen that at some point said prior planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance, and that's exactly what happened here. So make sure you get your initial sketches down beforehand, you know what's gonna go where, so you're not struggling as much with then painting out a scene, and you're not changing ideas halfway through. Like that extra time spent at the beginning of the development process is definitely worth it. It will save you time in the end. Alright, I'm wrapping up this painting, so let's once again review what the challenge is going to be about. You're going to create a painting on the subject of Enter the Dungeon, which is going to be a single illustration of a character entering or about to enter a dungeon. Subject doesn't matter. You're going to submit it to my personal Discord, link in the description, by September 6th. So after all submissions have been submitted, I'll take a little bit of time to prepare a video where I'm going to be critiquing the submissions that you guys have made, so you guys can get some feedback on the work you've submitted. If you want to participate but you don't want to be featured in the video, feel free to mention. That's also, of course, an option. You can just participate for fun without any expectations. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you have other suggestions for a future video and what your dungeon is going to be. Take care.